Over to you.
Can you see this?
Subbu.
Yeah. Can you see this slide? Can anybody do that? Or am I muted?
Yes, you're all good. Audio, video.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Hey, thank you so much, Hari Om, and you're welcome to this, presentation on Srimad Bhagavatam. I think we're moving into this territory today, and I'm so happy to, share my learnings of what I've read of the Avadhoota Gita in the last few days. Just to start, Srimad Bhagavatam is actually the 18th Purana of sage Vedavyas. Okay, Vedavyas apparently wrote, 17 Puranas earlier, and he wasn't very happy. And he felt there was something that was incomplete. And Narada approaches him and tells him to write about the Lord Krishna's journey. And then came the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is now the 18th Purana, after which it is said that Vedavyasa felt completely contented. Okay. Now, Srimad Bhagavatam, I'll just start with this verse, a small prayer. And it goes like this. Nigamakalpadaror galitam palam sukamukadamritadhrava samyutam pivata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. The picture that you see here is of Seth Sukha. He is the son of Vedavyas, and he's narrating Srimad Bhagavatam to King Parikshit. Okay, and this particular verse which I recited is just telling you that, how fortunate we are as souls to hear, Shukadeva talk about the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which is the story of the Lord. And it is like the Bhagavatam is like the luscious fruit of the Vedas. So Srimad Bhagavatam is equated to the, fruit of the Vedas. It is immortal, sweet, and it includes all types of liberation. Okay. Now, as we move into Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 11th canto, Bhagavatam has 12 cantos. It's got 18,000 verses. And in the 11th canto is when actually there is a reference to Uddava Gita. Now, Uddava Gita is the last message of Sri Krishna before the end of his avatar. And he happens to deliver this message to Uddava, who's not only related to him, but also a great friend and a wonderful devotee. Okay. Now, in the first section of the Uddava Gita, we have what is called the Avadhoota Gita. So Uddava Gita has 3 Gitas embedded in it. One Gita is the section 1 is Avadhoota Gita. Then after you go forward, after some more chapters, you get what is called the Hamsa Gita. And then you have something called the Bhikshu Gita. Okay, so 3 Gitas are embedded within the Uddava Gita, which is a part of Srimad Bhagavatam. I've taken references from 3 Swamijis here, Ramakrishnananda of Chinmaya Mission and Madhavananda and Prabhavananda of Sri Ramakrishna Mission. Okay, a very quick introduction. Just before we get into Avadhoota Gita, let's just understand who is an Avadhoota. Avadhoota is actually a Jivan Mukta. He's a self-realized soul and who actually roams around, the world, okay, and takes the role of a guru to lead people into liberation. Okay, so he is an Avadhoota. Dattatreya is an Avadhoota, and you are seeing the picture of Dattatreya here. You have those 4 dogs by the side, which is signifying the 4 Vedas, and he's an incarnation of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Okay. Now, if you look at Avadhoota Gita, there are 2 Gitas, Avadhoota Gitas that is actually being, talked about. The first Avadhoota Gita is, the rendition of Lord Dattatreya itself to 2 disciples called Swami and Kartika. And it is coming in 8 chapters and 289 shlokas. And it is regarded as one of the greatest, works on Advaita Vedanta. Okay. That is definitely a very high order philosophy. But what we'll be focusing here today in this discussion of Avadhoota Gita is Avadhoota Gita, which is coming in the section 1 of Uddava Gita of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11. Okay. Now, if you see the Uddava Gita, you will see, different narrations and different timelines. So this is in Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is a section where Shuka is giving the life story of Krishna, etc., to Parikshit, and talking about in Canto 11 what Krishna told to Uddava in the Uddava Gita, which is a reflection of what Dattatreya told Yaduraja in the Avadhoota Gita. Okay, so you will see, out of these 6 characters in Uddava Gita, you will find, suddenly you will say Brahmana Uvacha, which is referring to Dattatreya. There'll be Yadur Uvacha, then there'll be Bhagavan Uvacha, there will be Uddava Uvacha, there'll be also Sukha Uvacha. Other than Parikshit, I'm seeing that, it is actually having a narration of all the 5 people who are being spoken about in different narrations and different timelines. Okay. What we need to understand is in Lord Krishna's avatar, okay, there are 3 people who gain a very significant status, and are known as his devotees and 3 best friends, of great importance. The first one was Sudama. Now, Sudama was a Jnani, also known as Kuchela. Okay. With him, Krishna didn't have to communicate anything. They understood each other. He was a Jnani. He did not go to Krishna asking for something, though he was in abject poverty. And it is said that when Krishna embraced Sudama, he saw Sudama and Krishna met after 100 years, it is said. And when they went and met each other, they embraced each other. And it's said that Krishna shed a tear for the only time in the entire avatar. Okay. And it is a significance of Atma Aikyam, where 2 souls got together, okay, and realized, what was required for, Sudama. Okay. The second devotee that we normally hear about is actually Arjuna. To Arjuna, the communication which Krishna gave was the Bhagavad Gita, okay, which we are all aware of. And he asked Arjuna to follow the Karma Marga, okay, Karma Yoga. And to Uddhava, okay, which was his last parting message before he, concluded his avatar, he gave the Uddava Gita. Unlike Bhagavad Gita, which is in the name of Bhagavan, Uddava Gita is actually in the name of the recipient, Uddhava. Okay, and it contains 1000+ verses. And to Uddhava, unlike Arjuna, Krishna asked him to follow the Sannyasa Marga. Okay, so let me now quickly jump into the Uddhava Gita. Okay. Now, Uddhava Gita.
Sorry, Subbu. Subbu, quick question. Who is Uddhava?
Okay. Uddhava is one of the devotees of Sri Krishna. He's actually a cousin of Sri Krishna. Okay. And he is also his devotee and his best friend. Okay. Now, I will explain Uddhava to you as we go by. I think you will get a fairly good representation of that. Okay. Now, you're aware of Sudama. He's one person who's having a certain stature in the avatar, then Arjuna, and then of course you have Uddhava. Okay. Now coming to the end of, the context for Uddhava Gita, the context is something like this. Okay. Krishna has completed most of his tasks. His work is complete in the world under the, what he had come in the form of Krishna. Okay. So it is now time for him to go back. And Krishna is in Dwaraka, and it so happens that all the gods and goddesses come to Dwaraka to remind Krishna that his end has come. Okay, so in the Uddhava Gita, it actually mentions that Brahmas, Devas, Shivas, Prajapatis, Indras, Adityas, Agni, Angiras, Rudras, Sandhyas, Gandharvas, all of them, Nagas, Siddhas, Charanas, and Kinaras. Okay, all of them actually came down to Dwaraka. Okay. And they came to just remind Krishna that his work is complete and he needs to come back to Vaikuntha. Okay? And Krishna by that time had completed 125 years of his life on earth. Okay. Now Krishna does one thing. So he acknowledges to the gods, saying that he understands that his time has come and he's already thought over it. Okay. So he calls his team of Yadavas and tells him that it is time for him to go. Right. And in the process, he also tells Uddhava to come over to him. And he tells him that, Uddhava, it is time for me to now go to my heavenly abode. Now, what happens is Uddhava requests Krishna. He tells Krishna, he said, Krishna, if you are going, okay, why don't you take me along with you, right? For which Krishna actually refuses. Krishna refuses and tells him that, unlike the Rama avatar, okay, in the Rama avatar, what happens is Rama gives up his avatar, by actually moving into the Sarayu river. Okay. And all the people who followed him entered the Sarayu river with Rama and are supposed to have reached Vaikuntha. Okay. Whereas in Krishna avatar, Krishna says, I have to now travel alone. Okay. I will go alone. And Bhagavan Uvacha. So what does he say? He says, there is a curse by the Brahmana that the entire Yadava line will be burnt. Okay. And the city will submerge on the 7th day. Okay. Now I'm not getting into the curse, what happened, etc., because that's a different story in itself. But the Brahmana's curse was to take effect, and the entire Yadava line would have been destroyed, would have to be destroyed. Okay. And the city of Dwarka will submerge in the 7th day. He also tells Uddhava one more thing. He says, with my passing away, the age of Kali will set in. Okay. And he says, Bhavishya Adharma Ruchihi. He says, once Kali sets in, people will have interest in doing adharma. Okay. So Bhavishya Adharma Ruchihi. So he says, Uddhava, for a sattvic person like you, you also will have to leave this world, but you cannot come with me. Okay. So he says, you must renounce everything, and with evenness of vision, mind focused on me, reach me. So you go and take your sannyas, renounce everything, take sannyas, focus, meditate on me, and you reach me and you come to Vaikunta. I cannot take you with me. Okay. So Uddhava then replies back to Krishna. He says, you're asking me to take sannyas and renounce everything, but I'm a fool. I'm attached to my body and my, people. He says, Tyagoyam dushkaro bhuvan, which means essentially that it is very difficult to renounce. Now, we've all, read the Bhagavad Gita, so we know what happens in a teacher-student relationship with Krishna. So whenever Krishna says something, and the student retorts saying that, it is very difficult, just like, 634, which Ashish spoke today. He says, Chanchala hi manaha Krishna, okay, which basically says that, the mind is very wavery in 634. And it is very difficult to, be focused. And Krishna says, yes, I completely agree. But, the mind is very difficult to control, but with practice and with Vairagya, you can achieve the same. So similarly, when Uddhava says that, it is very difficult to renounce, Bhagavan says, listen, the disease is the same for everybody. It is basically the issue of sense control and mind control. Okay. But he gives an answer to Uddhava. He says, don't worry. Why don't you have to worry? Because people have the capacity to deliver themselves through their own exertions. Okay. So he says, men who have discerned, who have known the truth, can deliver themselves, which is basically, a reflection of even Uddharet Atmanam Atmana, saying that they can deliver themselves from evil inclinations by their own exertions. Second thing he says is, the guru can be the self. Self alone is the teacher. Okay. And he says, out of all the creatures I have created, the ones with no legs, like snakes, 1 leg, 2 leg, 3 leg, 4 leg, many leg, insects, birds, everything. He says, human being is the best, and I like him the most. Okay. And you will see a reference of this coming again in Uddhava Gita sometime later, and I will mention this again. Okay. Of all the creatures, the human being is at the top. And it is not only, somebody else who's talking about it. It is Bhagavan himself saying that, I like the human being creation the best. Okay. And he says those who have controlled the senses and the mind can, through the intellect directly seek me. And now he gets on to explain what is the story of the Avadhoota and Yadu Raja, which is the Avadhoota Gita section of Uddhava Gita. Okay. So Yadu Uvacha, now we are going back to, Yadu. Who was actually, the ancestor of Krishna himself. Okay, he was a king from the Yadu dynasty, and he was actually traveling in the forest, and he came across this Avadhoota, and he immediately stops and he inquires. He says that you are like a child, though you're a sage. You seem to be learned, dexterous, well-informed, and very sweet in speech. But you're looking like a Jada Unmat and Pishashi. Jada Unmat Pishashi, you're looking like a Jada inert guy, not showing any reactions. Unmat is, delirious, and Pishachi is looking like a ghost. Okay. And he says, how are you like this? I'm not able to fathom, because the world is living only for dharma, artha, and kama, while the goal of life is moksha. Okay. How come you are free from the lust of, forest fire of lust and greed? And you behave like as if you're an elephant who's bathing in the cool water of the Ganges. So what is your secret? Okay. So this is the start of the Uddhava Gita. So the Uddhava Gita is actually about learning to learn. Okay. And you will know why I have given this heading. So it is a way by which one can learn a lot, and how, you can, by noticing, certain experiences, learn by yourself, which is exactly what Krishna has said, that the self can be your own teacher. Okay. So it doesn't say Avadhoota Uvacha, it says Brahmana Uvacha. And the Brahmana says that, I have many teachers. Okay. But there are 24 gurus for me. And I learned many lessons from these 24 gurus by just observing their nature and their characteristics. Okay, so we will come to what are the 24 gurus which the Avadhoota is talking about. And I will just take a pause and explain the learning process to you, which was, sort of narrated by Swami Ramakrishna Nanda. So he says learning happens in 4 parts. Okay, the first part is when you receive the knowledge from the teacher, for which you have to be receptive. Okay, the second part is when you contemplate, right? And the third part happens when you are learning from your peers and friends. So you have book reviews, etc. You learn from both mistakes and what peers and friends are doing right. And the remaining 25% actually comes only with time, and that is through experience. Okay. So 25% through the teacher, 25% on contemplation, 25% through peers and friends, and fourth quarter, 25% comes only through time, which is in the form of experience. And when you look at the learning process, how do we learn? Is that it's important to be attentive, because attention makes us being receptive. And when we are receptive, we can gather information. When we gather information and reflect upon it, we can, educate ourselves, and there is expansion and development happens. So for example, when you have information, sometimes, when you contemplate, expansion happens, which is like you suddenly get new ideas about whatever topic the teacher has spoken, but has not necessarily verbalized, right? So when you keep thinking about a certain subject, expansion of knowledge happens, and also development happens, and new ideas also come to the fore. Okay? So now coming to the Avadhoota Gita, which is the 24 gurus of the Avadhoota. So the Avadhoota says, I learned my my lessons from 24 gurus, which is nothing but the earth, wind, sky, water, fire, moon, etc. And he says, from all these people, I learned many lessons by just looking and, understanding the nature and characteristics. And then he says, oh, grandson of Nahusha. Who's Nahusha? Nahusha is the grandfather of Yadu. Yadu's father is Yayati. Okay. And they're all ancestors of Sri Krishna. Okay. He said, now I shall reveal what I learned from whom. And so listen. What you need to understand in the Avadhoota's learnings, which is going to come now of the 24 stories, okay, of these gurus, is that it is not a teacher-student format, which is like, it's not Krishna telling Arjuna or, Krishna telling Uddava, but it is one of observation, reflection, and learning, okay? And the second thing you need to know is more than one lesson can be learned from each guru. So a guru, like earth, wind, etc., may actually give you more than one lessons. So let's go to the Avadhoota Gita now, section of Uddava Gita. So the first, mention is that of earth. Okay, he says, earth is my guru. Now, what did you learn from the earth? So Ramakrishna Nanda says very jokingly, he says, how many years have you spent on planet Earth? 50 years, sir. Okay. What have you learned from the earth? I do not know. Okay. So therefore, what happens is that, sometimes we do not really reflect upon what is happening around us. And therefore we, sort of forsake the learning that could have probably come the way. Now, let's see what the Avadhoota has learned from the earth. He says, the learning that I got from earth is it does not deviate from the path. Earth moves around the sun in a certain orbit, irrespective of any oppressions that may come its way. Okay. So irrespective of any, hindrances that come, because of destiny or, etc., it does not deviate from the path. That's learning number 1. Learning number 2 from earth is very similar, saying that, even if, you throw stones on the trees, right? And it will not murmur, but even if you pelt it with stones, etc., it will end up giving you only luscious fruits. Okay. It bears all the ravages and of seasons and goes on and on. So what is the learning that we get from here is follow your dharma till the last breath. Do not deviate from your path and show forbearance, which is self-restraint and control. Now, an example to quote here is, Vishwamitra actually wanted to go to the forest and become a Brahma Rishi. Okay. Now, in the process of becoming a Brahma Rishi, Indra got a little concerned, and he sent Menaka. Now, Vishwamitra got a little enticed with Menaka, and he ended up, getting into a relationship with her. And apparently for 10 long years, he forgot his goal of becoming a Brahma Rishi, and he led a family life with Menaka. Till he suddenly realized that, he's deviated from what he came to do. And then he sort of sent Menaka away, and then he started his tapas again to become a Brahma Rishi. This time Indra sent Ramba. Okay. When Ramba came, Vishwamitra was very angry, because he felt that he's going to fall into a trap again. So he actually cursed her to become a stone. So what happened is, first he was enticed by Kama, by Menaka, and second he was enticed by Krodha, which is Ramba. Okay. But what actually Earth tells you is that irrespective of whatever comes your way, do not deviate from the path. So again, Vishwamitra was put back before he could actually, end up becoming a Brahma Rishi. So that's the learning from Mother Earth. Okay. The second one is wind. Wind tells you that you should not have any attachment. It's a detached attachment. Now let me explain this. So what the Avadhoota says is the wind is unaffected by good or bad odor. So wind passes through, various areas, okay, good or bad, okay, foul smell, good smell, roses, jasmine, gutter, everything. It passes through that, but it doesn't get attached to them. Okay, it moves simply around, okay, in the environment, but it does not get attached to any of the objects. So similarly, the yogi, okay, does not get attached to any of the sense object that he's actually moving around, okay, in the world. Okay, why? Because, and how does he manage this? Is by actually keeping his eyes always on the self. So the nature of wind is not to get attached, and it doesn't mean complete detachment. It is detached attachment. Okay, which means that you should be in the world, okay, and go through the motions, but in a very detached manner. So an example of this is how Krishna lived his life of moving from, Gokula, Mathura, Vrindavan, Hastinapur, Dwaraka. He did not have any attachment to the places, but he went about doing the motions of what he was expected to do in terms of his roles and responsibilities. Coming to the third guru, which is sky. Now there is a slight difference between wind and sky. So wind talks about, detached attachment. Sky talks about a complete non-attachment and absolute detachment. Okay, right? So which only means that it says living in a body, okay, the self should reflect on unity, non-attachment, and sky-like trait of Atman. Okay. So what it actually says is sky gives space to winds and clouds, but is untouched by it. Just like the Atman is inside the Panchakosas, but untouched by it. Okay. So he says space and Atma are everywhere. It cannot be grasped. It cannot be contaminated. It is subtler than the subtlest. And space, like self, is detached from the body. Like space, self is detached from the body, mind, and intellect. The only difference is space is Jada, but Atma is Chaitanya. Okay. So you need to understand that this is the absolute truth. Now, since we are talking about detachment in wind and sky, wind is, a detached attachment which has to be practiced at the mind level, whereas sky is to know the absolute truth and is to be understood. Okay. So both of them talk about detachment, but in two different contexts. Okay. The fourth guru is water. Now, water is what? Water is very pure. Okay. And it is very sweet, genial. Okay. It is very friendly. And it also imparts holiness. So a lot of places, it cleanses the places as it goes. Similar to a sage who, resembling the water, purifies everybody who comes and touches him and prays and is in his company. Okay. There is also one more learning that you can take from the water, which is like, it gives space to the rock. So if it is confronted with anything, it simply meanders its way and to reach its final goal. Okay. Just like the earth, it does not deviate from the path. It just meanders around and then sort of goes to the final goal. Okay. So what can one practice from this? How Gurudevs actually, live with everyone in a pure, simple, and innocent and sweet manner. Okay, not high maintenance in any cost, and just an act of simplicity. Okay, that is exactly the learning from water. Okay, example is when Rama goes to the forest. He was a prince, and and when he was with Dasharatha, he was living in a palace. But when he was leaving with Vishwamitra, he was okay to live in the forest. Okay, so simplicity is the word here for water. Coming to guru number 5, fire. Okay. What does fire do? Fire consumes everything that is being offered to it. You put something into the fire, it gets consumed. Okay. Right. And sometimes you will see that fire is very visible. And in sometimes, okay. And sometimes you will find that fire is concealed. Okay. You cannot see the fire. So the Muni, the sage, also has to be in such a way that in some places he should be visible to the overall, people, to give them guidance and for liberation. At the same time, he should also learn how to be in the forest and not necessarily with the other people around. Okay. The second characteristics in fire is fire burns everything that is thrown to it, all the woods. Just like a Muni, will burn all your karmas with the fire of knowledge. Okay. The third aspect of fire is, if you look at fire and you burn fire, fire burns in the form of the wood that is burning. Okay. It tends to take the shape of the, the object that is placed in the fire. Okay. So similarly, the Lord also operates like that. The birth and death belong to the body and not the self. And flames are subject, may rise and fall, but the fire is just one, it does not change. Okay. And what is the learning here? That the fire as a guru will help you to burn. Okay. Just like with the self-knowledge will help you to burn all the karma, sanchita, prarabdha, agami. Just like fire burns all the wood that is put into it. Okay. Now learning number 6, guru number 6 is moon. Now moon is what? It, goes through, Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha. So we know that the moon is the same, but you see different colors of the moon, okay, in a 1 month period. Okay. So similarly, he says that birth and death belong to the body and not to the Atma. Okay. The moon remains as it is. It is only an apparent change due to astronomical motions. But okay, you see different features of the moon or the colors of the moon. Okay. But overall, the moon is not changing. So changes only belong to the body and not to the Atma. So this is the learning the Avadhoota says he picked up from the moon. Now, if you go back to Bhagavad Gita again, Arjuna laments, okay, over fighting with Bhishma and Drona due to the association with the body, till Krishna gives him a thing saying that, listen, the Atma is never, getting killed. It is only the body that is getting killed. And if these people come in the way of your battle, etc., you will have to fight them. So he admonishes Arjuna to actually, go ahead and fight. Okay. Now coming to guru number 7. Okay. Guru number 7 is sun. Okay. Right. I think there are 2 learnings here from sun. So first thing is, if you see the sun shines and it extracts the water. Okay. And it gives it back to the earth as rain. Okay. So similarly, the yogi should accept whatever is being given to him, but he should be able to give it back, okay, to the person without being attached. Okay. So that's learning number 1 from sun. The second learning he says is, which is something that we are aware that there is only one sun, but multiple reflections. So there is only one Atma and the reflections are many in the Jivatmas. Okay. And it is this principle of the Upanishads which leads you to 3 or 4, Mahavakyas, which says, Ekam Sat Vipra Buddha Varanti, that is the one became the many, okay? And Tattvamasi, thou art that, okay? And with this same idea, okay, Vivekananda and Satya Sai Baba, everybody spoke only one language. They say Manava Seva is Madhav Seva and Nara Seva is Narayana Seva, because the same God is present everywhere. So whether you worship him in the temple or serve him in the society, okay, it is one and the same. So this is the learning I have got from the sun. Okay. Now next is Guru is pigeon. Now pigeon teaches the Avadhoota about deep attachment which creates problem. Now I will tell you the story in a very short manner. Okay. This story is actually explained in some 25 verses or something, 22, 25 verses in the our Uddava Gita. But very shortly, there is a father doe, there is a mother doe, and there are chicks. 4 or 5 chicks are there. Okay. Now they are all having a very nice and very happy life until a hunter comes to the forest. The mother doe and the father doe are flying away and they are wanting to get some food, and the hunter puts a trap and collects all the chicks. Now, when the father doe and the mother doe come and return to the tree, they find that, the chicks are already caught. Okay. And in a rage, the mother doe just flies into the cage and she is also caught. Now, father doe is watching the whole thing and he says, what will I do without the mother and the chicks? And he says, I will also come. Okay. He also comes inside. And he also gets caught in the cage. Finally, the hunter wraps everything and he carries on. Okay. So all the mother doe, father doe, and the chicks are all caught by the fowler. And this is exactly what the Avadhoota observed. Okay. So remember, it is about observation, reflection, and learning. Okay. Then he says, the second learning, so this is, he says, is because of, deep attachment. Okay. Which is why the entire, thing was caught by the fowler. Okay. The second thing they say is, human birth is a gateway to liberation. And if somebody is very much attached to the family like the bird, he may fall in status. Okay. Now, this is what is said in the Avadhoota Gita. So what they're saying is that, you may, if you really want to be, moving forward in your, a journey of births, you have to actually move up in the ladder and not down the ladder. So that's the second take which the Avadhoota takes. And if you look at it, the reflection is one should not have very deep affection or close association with anyone, anywhere, at any time. Okay, this is one, because it will get you into problems. The second thing is, what Adi Shankara has said in Bhajagovindam, Kate Kanta Kaste Putraha. Okay, who's your wife? Who's your son? Supremely wonderful is the samsara, the circle of life, birth and death. Who are you? Whom are you? Whom are you for? And, ponder over these concepts because they do not have any grounding. Okay, so this is Pigeon, Guru number 8, which teaches people to be not getting too much into deep attachment, as deep attachment creates problems. Guru number 9 is the Python. Okay. Now, what does the Python do? The Python actually meanders in the forest. Okay. And it eats whatever is coming its way. One day it is a rat, it will eat a rat. One day it is a snake, it will eat a snake. One day it is a deer, it will eat a deer. One day it is a cow, it will eat a cow. One day there is no food, it will not eat anything. Okay. So what does the Python do? The Python accepts whatever comes its way. So he says the sage, remember this is sannyasa marga. Okay. So most of the things that are being said is to Uddava is how do you, renounce everything and go? And he's talking about these examples. So please keep that in the back of your mind. So the sage who lives a Python's life should, take whatever comes his way without exerting for it. Okay. So if nothing comes your way, nothing, that's it. Okay. Because the belief is God knows what to give, when to give, how much to give. So it is good to count your blessings, right? Rather than counting what we don't have. Okay. And when we accept this, whatever comes our way, we will not demand anything. And when we reduce our demands, peace will come automatically. So live contentedly, do not demand, accept what comes your way is the lesson from the Python. Okay. Now, Guru number 10 is ocean. Okay. It is about being complete and never disturbed. Okay. So how should the sage be? The sage should be placid and profound. Illimitable. What is illimitable? Limitless. Ocean is limitless. Immovable. No attachment, no aversion. Okay. Right. And it neither overflows nor shrinks, even though a multitude of rivers will enter it. Okay. It neither overflows nor shrinks. So what is it? It is never disturbed. It is complete in all respects. So the nature of the ocean is complete, full, samriddhi, never disturbed. Learn to keep mind contented. Despite rivers coming into the ocean, it never rises up or down. Okay. That's the 10th Guru. Now going to the 11th Guru is moth. Okay. It talks about sense control and not being carried away by outer beauty. Now, see, in all my slides, the first section of the Guru, there is some words in italics. Okay. What is in italics is what is coming directly from the Uddava Gita. What is not in italics is something that is an inference from the Uddava Gita that is being spoken about. So please keep that in mind. So whatever you're seeing there is in italics is directly from the Uddava Gita. Okay. Avadhoota Gita, part of the Uddava Gita. So man, he says, who does not have any control over the senses, by seeing anything like a woman, gold, ornaments, apparel, can get completely, fall into the enjoyment and come into the abysmal darkness. Okay. Just like the moth into the fire gets into the fire and is destroyed. Now, just to tell you the story of the moth. See, when it starts to rain, the moths start to appear. Okay. And a lot of times in the villages, you would have seen people would have lit actually a candle or a petromoss lamp or something like that. The moth is highly attracted to the flame. Okay. Now, when it sees the flame, it wants to go and sit on it. Okay. Even though it is harmful for the moth. So what happens is the moth goes, tries to sit on it, then comes away. Okay. Then again goes, tries to sit on it, comes away. So it goes on and on and on and on like this, and finally it eventually dies. Okay. So what is being spoken about is sense control. Okay. So what it says is blinded by attraction. Okay. If you are not controlling your senses, you will be drawn to this again and again till you finally destroy yourself. Okay. So what is being referred to here from the moth is the lesson of, not indulging more in sense gratification. Now the Guru number 12 is honeybee. Okay. Now there are two wisdoms here, two messages here. One is for nectar and wisdom. Now, just to, understand what the honeybee does. He says the sage should take, when they go for bhiksha, right? They should take only little doles of food from several houses and not tax one person very intensely. Okay. So he says, go to large number of people and collect little, okay, for your bhiksha. Second thing he says is, you cannot, receive bhiksha more than what the receptacle should be your hand or your stomach. Okay. Nothing more. You cannot hoard food in Bhiksha. Not hoard food even for the evening or for the next day. Okay. And third, he says is, if you were to hoard like a honeybee, what does a honeybee do? It goes to various flowers, takes little nectars from flowers, big or small. Okay. And then goes and collects it and forms a honeybee comb. Okay. If you start hoarding honey like a honeybee, he says it will finally get destroyed. Okay. Right. So a mendicant should not take bhiksha, which is more than his day's requirement, and which should not be more than a handful or a stomachful. Okay. And then he refers to what is called the shatpada. He actually talks about the honeybee and gives an example of shatpada. Shatpada is referring to the sixth sense in the humans. Okay. So he says basically the clever man should take the essence out of all the sources. Okay. So he should not differentiate saying that, hey, I will not talk to this person and, listen and take learning from him. Or I will only talk to somebody who's superior to me to take my lessons. No, a clever man, he says, it's like the shatpada, like the sixth sense. He will take learnings from everything big and small. Okay, like how the bee goes to even a small flower and extracts honey, and goes to a large flower also and extracts honey. Okay. Now 13. Rajesh, I think, can I go further because it's a little late?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Guru number 13 is actually the elephant. Now, elephant, the learning is sense control and sense of touch. Now, just to give you the story before I get into the lesson. See, how does anybody catch a male elephant? Okay. Now, this is something that I learned, while listening to the lecture. So apparently the hunter, it is easy to catch a deer or easy to catch other animals, but an elephant is a very difficult thing to catch. So what they normally do is they actually, the hunter of the elephant sends a female elephant into the forest. Okay. The female elephant will go and draw a male elephant. Now, the female elephant will spend time with the male elephant and rub the skin of the male elephant. And after that, the male elephant will not leave the female elephant. Okay. Then the female elephant will return. When it returns, the hunter is waiting for the male elephant to come, and they have prepared all the pits. The male elephant falls into the pit. The female elephant is taken on the side, and then they, find different ways by which to extract the male elephant, because now it is fully under their control. Okay. So a sannyasin, it is said, should not quote or touch the company of women. Okay. It is like death to him. Okay. Just like how the elephant, through the attachment of touch, okay, with the she elephant, is destroyed. So what is being spoken about from the learning from the elephant is the sense control and the sense of touch. 14th Guru is the honey collector, not to be avaricious and not to accumulate too many things. So what is being spoken about here is the tendency of many people in this world to accumulate things more than what they need for themselves. Okay. So what does the honey collector do? He goes to the forest, starts collecting honey. He starts hoarding honey. Okay. He neither consumes it, nor does it give away, to somebody else. Okay. So the honey collector, okay, the honey gatherer, like the sannyasi, this one. So what happens is he just keeps accumulating, which is not going to help anyway. And at the end of it, somebody else will come and take the honey that he has collected. Okay. So that is the story of the honey collector. The second thing is the honey collector is the first person to taste the honey which the honeybees have collected. Okay. Just like how the sannyasin gets the first opportunity to partake in the good things or the food that is made by the householders. Okay. Right. So these are the two references to the honey collector. So it says basically nobody should accumulate more than what one requires, because, there are only three ways to spend the wealth that you have earned. One is utilize personally, use it for yourself. Number two, give it away in charity and earn some punya by doing it to some dharma or charity. And number three is it will fill the pockets of the robber. That means after you pass away, somebody else is going to walk away and enjoy with it. Okay. So nothing is going to be of any use to you. So only three ways to spend: utilize it personally, give it away in charity, or you fill the pockets of the robber. Robber is the person whom you actually bequeath your wealth to. Okay. This is the learning from the honey connector. Next comes basically, just a second. Yeah, the deer. Now deer again is, it says, how a deer is caught in the forest. Apparently the hunter, the fowler goes into the forest and he starts playing wonderful music, and the deer is trained to listen to very good music. And the moment it starts to listen to music, it slowly walks its way to the fowler himself. Okay. Slowly, step by step, it starts moving into the, direction of the music. and finally gets caught by the fowler. So what actually is the learning the Avadhoota talks about is, even the evils of attachment to the sense of hearing, it is like a diversion. Okay. So you're doing something, suddenly you hear something, you start moving in that direction. Okay. Right. And there is a reference to Rishya Shringa listening to sensuous movie and then finally becomes a docile plaything for the women. Okay. So here devotional music is not considered sensuous music, but what is being said is anything outside of devotional music is what is being referred to here as sensuous music. Guru number 16 is the fish. Now, this is very interesting because it talks about sense control, and this time he talks about the control of the tongue. Okay. And he talks about a very important characteristics. He says the fish is gluttonous, even though it is a very satiated, with respect to the food, the moment it sees a hook and something hanging on the hook, it goes and nibbles on it and finally gets caught. Okay. So infatuated with the delicacies of an over greedy tongue, it meets its death. Okay. Right. And what it actually says is, the Uddava Gita, it says that amongst the 5 senses, right, if you have controlled the tongue, you have controlled everything. And you're called a Jitendriya. But if you have controlled everything else, but not the tongue, you cannot be considered a Jitendriya. Now see how powerful the tongue is as a organ of sense organ. Okay. So it is deluded by rasa, and it can actually lead you in a different direction into trouble. Okay. And the second thing he says is, how do I therefore get sense control of the tongue? Okay. So a lot of people say, I will give up food, I will not eat this, I will not eat that. He says, no, that is not the route. Okay. If you try to avoid eating something, it will cause more trouble to you. Okay. So the best way is moderation. He says, secret of controlling the tongue is to take little quantities and sustain it through life. And that way you will not be attached to the taste of that particular food. Okay. So very interesting observation. He says, if tongue is under control, everything else is under control. Every other sense organ is under control. You're a Jitendriya. If tongue is not under control and everything is under control, you're not a Jitendriya. So that's a good learning from the fish. Now, 17, okay, it's Pingala. Pingala is the name of a courtesan in the city of Videha. Okay, this is a story again, right? She's beautifully dressed and, she's entertaining customers, and she's expecting to meet up a rich man who will be able to give her a lot of money. And she has many lovers and she sleeps with them, and she's very disturbed, and she's very tired. Okay. And she's disturbed with this found expectation of making money. And at one point in time, she reaches a point of complete disgust. Now, this is a very important turning point, because this is a story of transformation, of lust to dispassion. Okay. And Uddava says, the Avadhoota says, one does not desire to get rid of the bondage of the body until one is disgusted. That means you have to have the virakti, you have to have the vairagya saying, hey, what is this I'm going behind? When you reach that point, it suddenly shifts from, desirelessness to basically vairagya. Okay. So then the Pingala starts to reflect, what is the simple desire of pleasure and money for which I'm doing all these things? The vairagya sets in. He says, I'm doing this and I'm not happy. So this small desire of, pleasure and money is creating the dukkha. And then she awakens and she says, if I give up this desire, then I don't have to have this dukkha. I can have peace. All along. And then she goes on and reflects. It's not over yet. It's not about just the vairagya. And then look at the transformation from where she is and where she is, going to. It says, all along I was standing outside waiting for the Parapurusha to satisfy me. And now, I missed the Paramapurusha inside me. Okay. Herefore, I am looking only at this Paramapurusha who can liberate my body, mind, and spirit. And she says, I will win him over, okay, by giving up my body to him and then enjoy his company like Goddess Lakshmi. Now, where is a courtesan and where is Goddess Lakshmi? And what is the tipping point for this transformation is that sense of disgust, okay, which sets in, which leads her to that vairagya. Okay. Then you have Guru number 18, which is the sparrow, how to give up possessions. It's very simple story. There is a sparrow in the forest. It chances to see a flesh. It picks up the flesh and starts to fly around. Okay. The moment it has picked up the flesh and starts to fly around, the larger predatory birds see this. And they come chasing behind the sparrow. The sparrow goes around the tree, it goes around in circles, but the big birds are not letting it go, and they're not letting it eat the fish. I mean, the flesh. Then all of a sudden, what happens is the sparrow drops the flesh. The moment the flesh is dropped, all the predatory birds leave the sparrow and go behind the flesh. Some other bird picks it up, and now the remaining predatory, the game starts again. The predatory birds have left the sparrow and chasing the other bird which has caught the flesh. So basically what it says is, when you give up the possessions, you will be in peace. Okay. So that is the learning from the sparrow story. Coming to basically 19th Guru, okay, the child. Now, how is a child? A child is very free from anxiety. It does not worry about honor and dishonor. Okay. Avadhoota says there are two people who are free from anxiety. The first one is a child, and the second one is a jnani. Okay. The child is free from anxiety because of ignorance. Doesn't know anything. Ignorance is bliss. I don't know anything, so I'm very happy doing whatever I'm doing. But the jnani is free from anxiety because he has realized the self. Okay. So he says, the sage should be like the child. He should be having a very childlike attitude. He should be childlike and not childish. Okay. Innocent in heart and not with a calculative mind. Okay. Guru number 20 is a maiden girl. Now, this is also a story. There is a girl in a village, and it so happens that, when she's away, when her relatives are away, there is a party which comes into the home, and she's all alone at home. Okay, now she has to go to the kitchen and take care of the guests who have come into the home. And when she goes into the kitchen, she's actually wearing a lot of bangles in both her hands. And as she's husking the paddy, what is happening is her bracelets are starting to make noise by rubbing against each other. Okay. So what she does is she removes one bracelet from each hand. Again, she does, the noise comes. Again, she starts removing. She comes to two bracelets. Again, she does, the noise comes. And then finally, she removes one bracelet and keeps only one bracelet. And then the sound stops. Okay. The Uddava, the Avadhoota is watching this from wherever he's watching. And then he says, even if there are two people, there may be a difference of opinion. And, there will be a chance of a quarrel. Okay. And there will be sound and noise. But if you live alone, like the bracelet of the maiden, you can be at peace. So live alone. Neither will you create any problem for yourself, nor will you create other people will create problem for you. This is the Guru number 20. Guru number 21 is blacksmith. Okay. So now this is something very tuned to chapter number 6. Okay. Where he talks about conquering postures, controlling breath. Okay. Collecting the mind together and hold it steady through renunciation and steady practice. Okay. Now, all this is what is being spoken about in Dhyana Yoga as to how you're supposed to, attain that single pointed focus, which we spoke about 634 when Arjuna says it is very difficult to become, tame the mind. Okay. Now, all these things come in picture, right? Having thus trained the mind and focused the mind, the blacksmith doesn't know what is happening external or internal. External is what? Outside objects. So apparently the king was passing by and the blacksmith did not even realize that the king was passing by the side. And what is internal is what? His ideas and feeling. And he's completely focused on doing his job. Okay. So from the blacksmith, the Avadhoota says, I learned focus. Guru number 22 is snake. Now, very interesting one observation of the snake. So what they say is the snake does not build its own home. Okay. Wherever it goes, it finds a hole, it tries to go inside and make it its home. Okay. So the sage should not build a palace for himself. The sage should actually enter the place wherever is available, whatever is already available, and not create something new of his own. And that's how we should live. And the snake taught him a lesson as making use of whatever is readily available to make it your home. Okay. Now, Guru number 23 is a spider. I think all of us know this. We've discussed it in chapter 7 also. Creation, sustenance, and dissolution. So he observes the spider and understands that the spider not only creates, but it also sustains and finally eats up its own dissolution, just like the Lord of the universe creates, sustains, and then finally, brings the whole thing to an end. Okay. And the second observation is that the universe is therefore not essentially different from the Brahman. So this is Guru number 23. Guru number 24 is wasp. Yad bhavam tad bhavati. This is a learning. So what does he say? Now, this is a story where they say that, there is this, it's called Brahmara Kita. Okay. When the cockroach being confined by a Brahmara Kita in a wall, it starts to think only of it and suddenly starts forming a body which is very similar to it. Okay. So it basically says that the more you think about certain things, the more you become like that. Yad bhavam tad bhavati. Okay. And this is the learning that the Avadhoota talks about in terms of the 24th Guru, which is the wasp. Okay. Now, interestingly, after this conversation, what happens is the Avadhoota says, I can also tell you some more things, which is the 25th, okay, which is not necessarily spoken in the 24. He says there is something that Yaduraja, I have also taken from the learnings from my own body. Now, what is it? See, he says the body is a teacher for me. If you remember Krishna saying that the self is your teacher, right? Here he says the body is a teacher for me. Being the cause, it has made me realize dispassion and discrimination, okay? Being subject to birth and death, okay? And it has helped me to reflect on the ultimate principles. And therefore, understanding whatever I have understood through the body, I can therefore now wander without attachment. So that is the first leg, okay, from the body. The second thing he says is, by observing other people, he says, for the sake of body, what do other people do? They start a family, wife, children, sense objects, domestic animals, servants, homes, relatives, amass wealth, okay, withers to the end, and finally end up, what do? They end up creating a seed for the next body, okay? So there is no moksha, there is only kama, dharma, artha, and kama. Moksha is just not there, okay? So this is the observation he has made from the body of the other humans, okay? Then he says, equates all the sense organs to like akin to having many wives of a householder, okay? So he says the tongue attracts a man in one direction, thirst pulls him into another. Sex impulse draws him somewhere, skin and stomach moves in another quarter. Nose attracts in one direction, eyes puts in another direction, tendency to work withdraws to something else. It's like those 5 sense organs, which is the 5 horses, each one pulling in a different direction. It is akin to saying a man living with many wives as a householder, how difficult it will be. So that's exactly his relation to, the body, and saying how difficult it is to, handle the sense organs, okay? And then he says, which is something very interesting, which I told about later about the status of the birth, okay, of various creatures. So he says, the Lord, through his eternal power, created various abodes such as trees, reptile, beasts, birds, insects, etc. 0 legs, no legs, 1 leg, 2 leg, 4 leg, 5 leg, etc., etc. And then finally, he made the human body, which is endowed with the ability to realize the supreme. And it says the God was delighted. So I think this is a very important thing, as to all of us are very lucky that, God sees the human being as a great opportunity. And he says, when God created the human being, he says in the first chapter also that, the human being is the best I like. And here he says, when he created the human being, he was delighted, because only through the human birth can one realize Brahman himself, okay? And lastly, it is just a warning signal to everybody that, that the body is, subject to birth and death. And, one should quickly strive to attain moksha before the death arrives, okay? Lest you fall in status from a human being to something else, because sense enjoyment is something that is attainable for anybody, okay? So even if you're born in as an insect or a bird or an animal or this one, etc., sense enjoyment is something that you can enjoy in any birth, in any category, but only the human birth will help you to realize Brahman. So therefore, he says, these are my learnings from my own body, is what the Avadhoota says. Okay, and final words for this concluding section of Avadhoota Gita. Brahmana Uvacha is the, Avadhoota speaking. He says, with this understanding and illumination as my light, I am established in myself in the Brahman, and I wander and roam over the world. Okay, and he asks the Yaduraja that he actually takes leave. Okay, having given and imparted this knowledge of the 24 plus 1 learnings from what he has observed and reflected on. Okay, and Bhagavan Uvacha, now coming back to Bhagavan and Uddava, right? Saying this, Yadu, found himself to be truly gifted to have received this message from the Avadhoota. And what is the Palashruti of having heard something like this from the Avadhoota? King Yadu was rid of all his attachments and became of even mind. So hopefully all of us will also be able to benefit from this learning and be rid of all attachments and become of even mind. Okay, which is the benefit that this Uddava Avadhoota Gita talks about as a reflection of what is being spoken, right? Now, I just want to conclude the last part through actually an incident of Mahaperya of Kanchi, Sri Chandrasekhara Saraswati. somebody went and asked him, people call you a Jagat Guru. Are you indeed a Jagat Guru? Okay. And to which I think Paramacharya only smiled and replied, and he said, the whole world is a guru to me, and that is why they call me a Jagat Guru. Okay. I think the Avadhoota has reflected the same thought and notion of learning through observation and reflection. Om Tat Sat. Thank you very much. Jai Saram.
You rocked, Subbu. Amazing.
It was amazing, Subbu. Thanks for sharing.
It was a brilliant presentation. Thank you so much. Please do share the slides.
Yeah, I'll send you the slides.
Yeah, this is amazing, Subbu.
Just amazing.
Sorry for this half an hour. I didn't realize.
Each of your 24 sort of examples were just kind of amazing. I think you've put a lot of effort to the pictures and the examples, and oh my God, this is just unbelievably good.
Hey, thank you. Actually, this is go ahead.
No, I was about to say the 25th Guru is Subbu, but
Yes.
No. I'm just doing a cut and paste. This actually is a condensation of some 201 slokas of 4 chapters condensed in 20 slides. Okay. So for me also, it was quite a challenge, I would say, after saying yes to put this together. But then by God's grace, sort of just managed to put it together, and I'm so happy I did it.
No, yesterday when I saw the slides, I said, this is going to be a rocking session. That's why I deliberately did not share the slides with everybody.
Yeah, I made some changes. I'll send you the final one.
We should have given you the full 90 minutes.
Hey, no.
think so,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
I see you were rushing towards the end. Yeah.
Yeah, but I know he was recording it, so I wasn't sure that I should do it so fast. But without the learning being imparted, it was difficult to move. Sorry about that. Yeah.
No, not at all. It was wonderful.
Actually, just amazing. Just
Thank you.
amazing. We can't even express how amazing it is. So just being silent is much better, I guess.
Yeah, actually, in the Uddava Gita, there are 3 Gitas embedded. So this is the first Gita, which is Avadhoota Gita. The second Gita is Hamsa Gita. It is when I think people go to Brahma. I think the sons and etc. go to Brahma and tells Brahma, saying that how do we cross this, overcome these gunas and other things, etc. There's a question, and Brahma is not able to answer, and he prays to Lord Vishnu, Narayana, and Narayana comes in the form of a Hamsa, a swan, and he sort of articulates, which is the Hamsa Gita part, which is the second Gita which will come in Uddava Gita. Of course, in between there are other discussions and conversations that are happening, right? The second Gita which comes in Uddava Gita is Hamsa Gita, and then towards the end there is something called Bhikshu Gita. Okay, it's a story of a mendicant. Okay, so it's another storytelling session happening there. So I'm thinking that maybe we can do this in parts. Next we can focus on Hamsa Gita, and then we can do it this and that.
Absolutely.
We would have left something in between, which is some this one. But those conversations are very similar to Bhagavad Gita and other things, I think. So in some way, I think we can look at it this one. But
a question for you.
Sorry.
And question for you, Subbu. So where are you? What lectures are you studying?
See, actually, let me tell you, this thing of Avadhoota Gita struck me. I'll tell you how it started. Last week, I think we were struggling to get people to present. So, and people were not wanting to go to the 8th chapter. So there was some discussion there. So I said, let me try and see if I can do something. And suddenly it hit upon me that, Avadhoota Gita was something that came to my mind. So I said, let me do something. But then that was, I think, Tuesday or something. I think I texted you, right, Krishna, somewhere to just understand what this is about. But then I got a little confused because there are 2 Avadhoota Gitas. One is what Dattatreya has told, this one, and the other one is what Krishna talks to Uddhava in Uddava Gita. Then I found that there were no lectures available on this. Then finally I found one Chinmaya Mission lecture of Ramakrishnananda, some 5 lectures of 1.5 hours each. So I went through those lectures. I made some notes on that. Then I went to the textbooks, Prabhavananda, and the other one is another book which I have. So I went through the actual commentary and translation, and then it was, easy to connect and put together. So it was
amazing.
Yes, so much.
Swami P has lectures on Uddhava Gita too, and also the whole thing has been transcribed to a book. The Arsha Vinash.
I see. Okay. I couldn't find it in YouTube. I found Guru Parananda's lectures, but that was more in Tamil and some 274 videos. So that was quite a lot to digest, So, but this was so good. I will share this presentation. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Please.
Please. Thank you so much, because I've just started reading the Bhagavatam in Hindi, and I
Okay.
just turned to the 11th canto and said, okay, I have to now
Okay.
read 11th canto, even though I'm in first
See the-
canto.
See, the 10th canto is it's all about Krishna avatar, right? From his birth.
Mhm.
Okay. And apparently the Bhagavatam is there only to the extent of him, before meeting the Pandavas, and then it comes to the Uddava section when he's finishing his avatar after the task is completed, right? His entire, life with the Pandavas is covered in Vishnu Purana, which is part of, which is including Mahabharata, etc. Right?
Right.
And Bhagavatam in the first 12 cantos and the initial cantos is all about Dhruva's story, Prahalada's story.
Right.
It's a lot of other things that are there. So since it is storytelling, it's a little interesting and nice, So not too heavy, but at the same time gets the message across. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
801.
Thank you.
And any other questions for Subbu?
No questions. One final appreciation by me. Subbu, excellent presentation. I
Yeah, thank
think
you.
for the benefit of others, I think you should do this once again. Maybe
Yes.
as he said, you will have an entire session for doing only this. Excellent, Subbu. I can keep hearing you for a very, very long time.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you so
great.
much.
Yeah.
I
Probably
totally
more
agree
questions.
with Srinivas,
Yeah.
because I think the more you say it like 2-3 times, it will sit in our minds. So I would agree to, even if we are not doing 8 chapter, I think if people are not coming there, maybe you can have a story of one each, 24 of them in Vistara,
I
So
like
for
Leave it to
how,
Rajesh, whatever. I mean, I'm okay with presenting, but I think let's just see how the,
We'll
Rajesh, I'll leave
play
it
it
to
by
you.
the year. We'll
Yeah,
figure it out.
we'll play it by the
Okay?
year. Correct.
Yeah.
I
Excellent.
like how
Excellent.
all the 5 senses, 5 elements were all like nicely covered, like the 5 taken.
That's what Ramakrishna Nanda tells, how many years in planet Earth? 50 years. What did you learn from Earth? Sorry, I don't know.
Beautiful.
I've read about these 24 examples or avatars or whatever, and I found them seriously random when I first read it, and I was like, how do you kind of make sense of this kind of? But you kind of really kind of helped us. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Subbu.
See, Srimad
I'm actually
Bhagavatam is,
I'm actually
yeah,
wondering
Rajesh.
if the 24 corresponds to that, the count, right? Like 5 karmendriya, 5 jnanendriya, panchabhutas, the mind, body, chitta, and like the 4 plus
Yeah.
the 5. It should probably be good to see if that corresponds to that 24
Yeah,
elements
good
that make
idea.
up everything.
See, the biggest, it
Subbu,
doesn't necessarily correspond, Krishna, but actually the biggest thing that is reiterated again and again is, deep attachment, to come out of deep. And in fact, that is what is coming in the Palashutri also, saying that by hearing this, he comes out of his attachment. So it is all about renunciation. So if you see, it is sannyasa marga. So some of the things that is being said, sometimes when you reflect, you wonder, hey, what is, this one? But maybe some of us will, once you finish Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and sannyasa is coming our way somewhere, we'll need to also prepare ourselves mentally to this, Yeah, VP, sorry, you were saying something?
Yeah, no, this was wonderful. I have actually last year read Bhagavatam, but the way you just narrated all these stories is just amazing. Like reading it in the pages, which I'm sure Vidya will get to now, as she was saying. But listening to you was just very, 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 very
Yes.
fulfilling in many ways. I was just going to ask you to share the lectures of the Swamiji you mentioned, who has covered it in 6 lectures. Would love to hear his description as well. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Subbu, one more request. We are going to impose this on you. One slide, you have to do one narration, please.
So I didn't get you.
The
Sorry.
narration is just amazing. Beautiful.
Oh, okay. Hey, thank you. Thank you. So you're saying that I should do now, or what are you saying?
No. Like in your future presentations, every one slide you have to do at least one narration, like one shloka narration or a verse narration or singing something.
Thank you. Yeah.
Genuine compliment. Amazing narrations. Beautiful shlokas.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
And
Subbu, thanks
you, everyone,
for spending the extra 35 minutes than what we scheduled. With that, we will conclude with our concluding prayer. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhaga Bhavet Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hari Om. That's all.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Om.
Thank you.